Hi guys, my name is Kat. I'm a California CPA with more than 10 years of experience, and in this video I'll show you how to prepare private foundation tax return. So why it is important to file tax return for private foundation correctly and timely? The first reason is that only 20% of US foundation have a website, so the only information that is available for public is actually their tax return. After the tax return is processed, it is available for public and you can just find it online and kind of like get to know the foundation by the tax return. Also, another difference between public, charity, and private foundations that on private foundation financials and tax returns, we can see lots of capital gains, investments, and earnings. So it's different because they usually have like lots of net assets, which is mostly investments. The other items that is very specific to private foundation is excise tax on capital gains and earnings. Very important to watch out, private foundation have a rule, a 5% distribution rule. So 5% of assets has to be distributed for charitable purposes and every single year. If a private foundation distributed more than 5%, it can carry over for next 5 years and offset the tax in next few years. If it distributed less, it will be penalized. So we need to make sure we distribute 5% of assets every single year. The deadline for the tax return filing is the 15th of the 5th month. So if its year end is December 31st, it's usually due May 15th and can be extended for 6 months. So right now I'm recording this video, it's November 7th. So usually the deadline for year end December 31st would be in November 15th, so in a couple days. So we still have time. And it is important to file it correctly, timely, like every single field has to be filled up. If it's not, the private foundation can be penalized. I will go ahead and share my screen right now and show you how to prepare Form 990-PF. On a side note, I want to tell you that I also offer tax preparation and tax review services, and I have some online programs for tax preparers. So if you want to check them out, go to my website, remotecpainla.com. Thank you, and let's switch to my computer now. So I switched to my computer, and here you see the Form 99-PF that I will go over in a couple of minutes. Before that, I just want to show you that you can find any 990-PF or foundation tax return for any private foundations that already filed their tax return. It is available to the public, so we can find it online for any company pretty much. So all we have to do is just Google 99-PF Finder or GuideStar. I think GuideStar you have to register for free, but 99-PF you don't have to. So all we have to do is to go there, choose, like let's say if you need 990-PF, we choose 990-PF, and I will just search for foundation. And yeah, you can find any foundation you want. So let me open this one. And for example, here's public information, this foundation located in Utah. And here, that's how they filled it up. Actually, I might just leave this one open when I go through certain sections in our 99-PF. All right, so that's how you can look it up, any other foundations or similar foundations in your state, and check it out how they do fill it up. Let's go back to this form 990-PF. So this one is a required form to fill up no matter if the foundation had income or not. It has to fill it up every single year. And all parts and lines needs to be filled up, or is like none or zero has to be entered. And let's start with the box J right here, accounting method. So we have to check like what accounting method it is the private foundation have. So let's say if you do check cash on balance sheet here, we should not see any payables or receivables because we have a cash basis. On accrual, we can. So that's just a note So maybe in the end you have to kind of like do some adjusted entries and switch to cash if it's a cash basis. Part 1. So part 1 is pretty much like a profit and loss statement for private foundations, and it has a few columns. So for example, this one is revenue and expenses per book, net investment income, adjusted net income, and this was disbursement for charitable purposes. So net investment income, all the income and expenses related to investments go here. So for example, we can see like here we have interest, dividends, capital gains, and if we have any expenses allocated here, so that's where it goes. Unrelated income from alternative investment just doesn't go on this profit and loss. It might be on your profit and loss financial statements, but it shouldn't be on the tax return. Column C, adjusted net income, is for operating foundation only. And operating foundations are basically, they're very rare compared to other private foundations, and they devote most of their resources to active conduct of exempt activities. So for example, those are museums, zoos, research facilities, libraries. So most likely you wouldn't see many of them, but they do still exist. So this column most of the time just doesn't fill up. And so let's see, box line 2. So here's this box, line 2. If the foundation is not required to attach Schedule B, it has to fill it up here. And the only foundations that are not required to attach Schedule B are the ones that no person contributed 5,000 or more. So we have to check this box. Line 15, let's go. So I'm just going to go through different lines that are not as straightforward and explain differences and what it needs to be included or not. So for example, this line 16 here, I was looking into line 15, pension plans and employee benefits. So the way I prepared any kind of form, any kind of tax return, I also look at this is not the line 16 I'm looking for, line 16, line 15. I always look at instruction first. So every time instruction comes up for a new form, I always review all the instructions. So I recommend it to do for everybody. So for line 15, what I want to mention is that payroll taxes go here. They don't go on line 18, they go on line 15, where pension plans, employee benefits, and payroll taxes. And we can look it up here under instruction. Then payroll taxes should go here. For line, let's see, where is that? Taxes. Line 18, we can include any excise or property taxes, and they usually go in column A, revenue expenses per books. Line 16, legal fees, accounting, and other professional fees. They can be allocated between investment, charitable, and unrelated business income as well. So those can be allocated, that's fine. Okay, so let's switch to next page. It's a balance sheet. So balance sheet is also pretty straightforward. There's just a couple items that are a little bit different. So for example, line 10, investments, we have to include, we have to attach schedules of details every single year. And also here we have other assets. So here we include different kind of alternative investments, not the ones that are used for charitable purposes. So here we just fill up balance sheet. Part 3, it has, so this is mostly for accrual basis, because if you're a cash basis, you should have, and I just want to I'll go back here quickly. So there's a book value, what we have on books, and fair market value, and that's something we can find on statements. So for example, if you have investments in stocks, on books will have one value, on statements, year-end statements will have different values. And then here, pretty much the difference between our what we actually report. It can be like unrealized gains and losses. For cash basis, we most likely are not going to have those, but for accrual we might. So that's where it goes. So any unrealized gains and losses should be disclosed on this part 3. Part 4 is pretty much details for capital gain, net, and income. So this amount here that we report as a capital gains should tie to our number here, and that's what it pretty much says, line 8. So we include cost, proceeds for different kind of investment income. Part 5 is pretty much, most of it is not applicable anymore, because for example, this section 940, it has been, sorry, I need to move myself. It's been amended already since 2019, so there's nothing really to include here, and most of the time it's gonna be blank. Those are general questions that needs to be answered, and most of the answers will be no here unless something changed since last year. The same for part 7b. The only thing to point out here is pay compensation or pay or reimburse expenses to disqualified person. So let's say if you, disqualified person can be defined, there's lots of definitions, needs to be read through all of them. So it can be like CEO of the company or somebody like that. So if you do, like let's say we don't pay somebody, but we do reimburse them expenses, it needs to be considered here, because that's just something people forget sometimes. So that's pretty much all about this page. This is also mostly general things. Here we list all officers, directors, trustees, foundation managers. I would not recommend list their addresses, personal addresses, for privacy purpose. So I would just list foundation address here for their address. Here, anybody who got paid more than 50K. Those are also like very general information. Okay, this part is really interesting. So that's where we start calculating minimum investment return. So remember, we have 5% of assets that needs to be distributed every single year. So we kind of like start our calculations here. Here we start with average monthly fair value of securities. So that are not included or invested in charitable programs. So no office equipment, no buildings that use for programs, those are not included here. So we just include mostly like public traded security, and any reasonable method for calculating fair market value is okay. And also don't forget, we have to do average monthly fair market value, sorry. So we need to divide it by 12 in the end. So we do whatever their fair market value and then do average monthly. The same for cash balances. So it needs to be used beginning and ending of the month cash balances and average by 12 months. There's any other, I think there is also part somewhere for other assets as well that needs to be included here. And this part 10 and 11 is continuous for calculation of minimum distributions for any other assets that might be included here. And let's see, undistributed income. So we include, like, usually the tax software does it for us, and most of tax softwares are very sophisticated. So we have carryovers from last 5 years that we can offset undistributed income this year, and if not, we also have like 1 year to pay it back. So if we undistributed income last year, we have like 12 months to pay it back. So that's just something that needs to be calculated and make sure that we do it on a yearly basis. And let's see, here we have like a few supplementary information, like grants and contributions that approved for future payments. things like that. And let's see, transfers. If you have any transfers, that should be included here as well, which usually not a case. And yeah, so that's pretty much everything on this form. I think what important is, just want to mention, when you do accounting or you help with accounting for private foundation, it would be nice to separate income and expenses by a few categories. So one of them is administration, investments, and programs. So eventually it's easier to kind of like differentiate it here. Yeah, so I think that's the last one I wanted to show you. So it is important to fill it up completely, accurately, timely, because that's the most important source of information for the public and future donors. Thank you. I hope you found my video helpful. If you want to learn more about me and what I do, please go to my website remotecpainla.com and please subscribe to my channel. It means still a lot to me when people comment or subscribe to my channel. That makes me want to continue and record more videos. Thank you and have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.